Hey, all my Crimsonites, and welcome to the Crimson Cure channel, where we embrace our femininity, increase our womanly values, and celebrate our brothers. So join me on our feminine journey to learn, heal, and grow. Hey, my Crimsonites, and welcome to the Crimson Cure channel. I'm your hostess, femininity coach and author of the Crimson Cure. And this is my perspective. So as you can see, we got Mustachio back on the Summer Jam screen. She's been on the Summer Jam screen before. Her and her mustache and her crusty lips, which are three separate entities. But we're not going to go there. We're going to listen to the foolishness and the representation of what's going on with these chicks out here in these streets after Kamala lost the election and they're crashing out. Here we go.
For the next 4 years in protest and protection of your bodies. As we know, if that little baby inside you gives you any trouble and you need an emergency healthcare, you're fucked and you're gonna die. I think that is sufficient enough reason to stop having sex. Don't you agree? This vote wasn't a vote for Americans. This vote was for men. And unless we want to become the handmaid's tale, then us women need to protest because this is some buttery bullshit. I'm sorry to the women and minorities who aren't going to get the help that they need in the next 4 years. I'm sorry for the people who are impoverished, who are just going to keep dying from starvation and lack of healthcare and lack of governmental support. People are actually praising this guy, and it's a freaking joke. Look at the states he won. You won't catch me there. You'll catch me in New York City. And I'm sorry to all the women who are going to suffer in these bumpkin-ass, small-ass little towns because of this. Reason why I'm a New Yorker and always will be. Fuck Florida. Donald Trump is president, and I think all women should stop having sex for the next 4 years.
Now, as we heard her lips and her mustache say, the disinformation and misinformation that continues to be spread continuously. And I wanted to highlight a particular comment, and this comment was from a woman. She said her and her mustache need to go sit down somewhere and shut up. This is the dumbest crap I've heard post the election. Less than 10% of women having baby deletions are because of medical reasons or SA. 90% are simply deleting babies because they are just irresponsible. So sick of hearing this lie. To want us to overlook all the other things the country needs for all the Americans and zone in on focus on less than 10% of women is foolish, selfish, and irresponsible. That's why she lost. This right here is why some people do not want a female president. Some of y'all have the worst thought process ever. And she summed it up perfectly as to why no one wanted a female and no one really wanted a Democrat anymore. We'll go more into that at a later time about not wanting a Democrat anymore. And this is coming from somebody who doesn't really necessarily believe, quote unquote, in the system, right? It's flawed, it's corrupted, in my opinion. And it has been that way for so long. But there's always levels to it, right? If we want to take stuff on the top level, being a Democrat at this point is foolish. Like I said, I'm not going to delve too far into that portion of it. However, when we think about the level of misinformation that is coming from the Democrats, this is coming from leftists, Marxists. See, Trump was right when he said it's Marxist, because it is demonstrably so. And the level of propaganda that is anti-woman that comes from them has to be studied, because they are trying to say that the Republicans and it's the right wings and that don't want rights for women. But really, it's the Democratic Party that pushes it the most. Like, they push it overtly under the guise of so-called healthcare. See, no one said that women wouldn't be able to go to a hospital or get health care. It always amazes me that the conflation between ripping your child out of your womb and that being a source of health care. It's not health. That's not health care. And just like the lady's comment says, less than 10%. I've read data that says it's almost less than 1 or 2% of women who are raped, who are having such massive complication that a deletion is the only way to medically see to them and to resolve the issue. Like that pregnancy has to be terminated or else. Because there is a such thing as that, right? There is a such thing as that. However, it's the minority. It's a small minority. It's not even a big minority. It's a small minority. The majority of females that care about this so deeply are the ones who either have already been irresponsible with their wombs or can see themselves being irresponsible enough that needs to be an open-ended option without any restriction or anything. The misinformation that specifically Black women like to go with, no matter how many times it's stated, they love running with misinformation, and they like running with the misinformation that they believe paints them in the most pathetic, victimized light that they can possibly be painted in. And I don't understand that from a demographic of women that swear to God that they are the backbone of everything and that they're boss chicks and that they're educated and that they are superseding every metric and all of this other stuff, to also simultaneously be perpetual helpless victims who are always targeted and who are always, at the bottom of everything, and everyone is they're so downtrodden and all of this. The other thing that was said in that comment section that I'm going to touch, and I may touch it later as well, is the focusing on the woman rather than focusing on the Black part. Sojourner Truth did this. See, that old spirit, it's an old spirit. Ain't I a woman? Black women in this country have historically thrown the collective of Black people under the bus and our collective rights as Black people in favor of their so-called rights as women. And they've always tried to link arm in arm with white women where they get the idea from. See, they don't get the practice from them, they get the idea from them. And this is old, right? This is an old play. Because Black women consistently, this election was a really, really great example of Black women ditching the Blackness for the womanness. They don't care about the economy as it pertains to Black people making more money or taking advantage positively of the system as best that they can to raise their station collectively. They're more concerned with, quote unquote, being a woman and all that means, and quote unquote not losing any rights, which they have not. And it is played out again. The white women did their due diligence. They did their duty. The white women did not say we were women first, white second. They said we're white first and then we're women. A lot of them lied to Black women's faces. Okay? If they didn't vote in Hillary, and she's one of them, they weren't going to vote in Kamala. Because she's not black, but she's not white either. So they weren't going to vote her in. Anytime I saw a video of the Amish were headed out to vote, the Mennonites were headed out to vote. Come on. Like, they stood on business in a way that that I have not seen white people stand on business in terms of an election in quite some time. They was like, nah, we for real this time. Like, we are not gonna allow no other demographic of votes to outweigh what we want. We're tired. We're not doing the Democrat thing. We're not doing the extreme leftist thing. We're not doing the extreme liberal thing. We are not. We are going to recalibrate the entire government. We just gonna reset it. And they did. Like, they did. It was not a theory. They did it in one fell swoop. So all that, what y'all talking about, all that whoop, 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 y'all talking about, doesn't mean anything. It didn't mean anything. White women proved you that, I don't know how many times white women got to prove to you that their cultural allegiance supersedes their gender allegiance. I don't care what they tell you about white men. They're not going to, in mass and in a collective, stand against them. They're not going to do it, especially not in your favor. They're not going to do it. Some of them may be really concerned about women's rights, but when the chips, when it's for all the cards, I know they're going to do their due diligence for their people. They're going to stand in solidarity. You can't really be mad at them. All that you can do as a collective Black woman is wear the egg on your face. Put on your clown makeup, because you stay clowning. Why argue with the clowns when the circus is well at work? Jump down in the comment section. Let me know what you think. Like, share, subscribe to the channel if you have not. Once again, I'm your host of The Crimson Cure, and this was my perspective. Bye-bye, Crimsonites.